Hello everyone, I'm Anusha, and today we're going to be looking at the eye structure. So here's what an eye looks like. So the white bit would be called the sclera. The colored bit over here is what we call the iris, and that sort of black hole in the iris is called the pupil. So we'll just look at some of the major functions of the mammalian eye, the structure and the function. So here, starting from this side of the eye, is a membrane on top of the cornea, which is not labeled here, but it's called the conjunctiva. So conjunctiva basically is a very thin membrane that covers the cornea. And it's transparent, and as you can probably guess, the function of that conjunctiva would be to protect the cornea, which is just beneath it. So moving on to the white bit, so this white bit in the eye that we can see, that's called the sclera. As you can see, that's the sclera. It's a tough connective tissue that encloses the eye, except at the front here, except at this bit called the cornea. So, so you can guess what the function of the sclera would be. It's enclosing the whole eyeball. It's to protect the eyeball against mechanical damage, and also because it's made of tough connective tissue. And also this layer is a layer to which the eye muscles are attached to. So it allows tough connective tissue, allows muscle attachment, provides protection against mechanical damage. Yes, so okay, so you can see this here. These are the eye muscles that will allow the eyeball to move about. These muscles are connected to the tough sclera. Now, the sclera is all of this white bit, but in the front here, over this bit, you can imagine if it were white, light can possibly go into the pupil. So this area, therefore, of the cornea, which is the front part of the sclera, so that's the sclera, and the front part is the cornea, is transparent. It's transparent to light. And the function of the cornea is not just to allow light to go into the eye, but it's also to allow the passage of light while bending it. So as light goes in, it bends at the cornea. That's the principle of refraction. So you all know that refraction is the bending of light when it moves from a less dense medium to denser medium, or conversely, when it's moving from a denser medium to a less dense medium. So the light just doesn't follow the same path, it bends, as you can see here, it's bending. So if we look at the cornea, which is here, as the light comes here, well, that's not very visible here, but it actually bends. Okay, this is not the best picture to show this, but you get the idea that it bends at the cornea. Yeah, so it falls on the lens, and the lens can further refract, can focus the light right onto the retina. We'll come to the lens later on. Okay, so let's look at the iris. So this layer here. So the iris, as we mentioned, is the colored part of the eye, and it contains two kinds of muscles, the circular muscles and the radial muscles. So as the term itself suggests, the circular muscles I'll show you. Here we go. So this is yeah. So you see the circular muscles go like that, and when they contract, circular muscles make this pupil. They make it smaller. They make the iris larger and the pupil smaller. And when these circular muscles relax, and the radial muscles in the iris, which go from here to the outer region, which go like that, hence the term radial. So these radial muscles, when they contract, they pull outwards, they pull the iris out, and you can see the pupil gets bigger. So it increases pupil diameter when the radial muscles contract. So that was just to show that the two types of muscles that are present in the iris. So what would be the function of the iris? We just mentioned just now, that the iris controls the size of the pupil thanks to those two kinds of muscles. And why we need to control the size of the pupil is to adjust the amount of light that is entering the eyes. If you can see a dilated pupil here and a small iris, so it's an inverse relationship. If the iris is big, as you can see here, the blue part, when the iris is small, the pupil is big. When the iris is bigger, the pupil is smaller. So this is for adjustment of light. So you can see when the pupil, you can see that here's a dilated pupil that allows more light to fall on the retina for maximum stimulation of the photoreceptors in the retina. Here we can see the pupil is smaller, so that means a smaller amount of light can be admitted into the eye. So that's probably to protect the photoreceptors from too much light and light damage, light-related damage. So bleaching of the pigments. So the pupil, therefore, it changes in size to adjust the amount of light entering the eye. So that was the pupil. I'm sorry, that was the iris. Now, what is the pupil we just mentioned? The pupil, the definition of a pupil basically is it's a gap. As you can see, it's a gap in the iris. And it appears very black. That's because light goes in and it doesn't come out again. It just goes in. So that's the pupil is to allow light into the eye. Now let's go to the other structures of the eye. So let's see, we were looking at conjunctiva, okay, iris, pupil. How about the aqueous humor? So the aqueous humor in this picture, the aqueous humor is this. It's a little chamber. It's full of transparent watery fluid that fills the front part of the eye, just after the cornea. And the purpose of this, as you can already guess, is to maintain the shape of the front chamber of the eye. So after the cornea, after this aqueous humor chamber, okay, we've looked at the iris already. Now we've looked at the pupil, which is a gap in the iris. Now it's time to look at the lens, which is a very important structure. The lens is transparent, it's elastic, it's a biconvex structure, as you can see, it's ovoid, and it's held in place behind the cornea. You can see there's suspensory ligaments that hold it, the ciliary body. So what is the purpose of the lens? It changes shapes. Sometimes it's fat, it's thick, sometimes it's thinner. Right, let's see. So here we go. So that's the lens. Sometimes it's thick, sometimes it's thin. So it changes shape to adjust the focusing of light onto the retina. So that's what it does. It focuses. So the light that comes in is bent by the cornea and it reaches the lens, and the lens will adjust this refraction of light to a single point on the retina. Yeah. So that ability to adjust this focusing of light is called accommodation, and that is made possible by changing the shape of the lens. Okay, so now let's look at the ciliary body. So the ciliary body is really, it's this structure over here. This is the ciliary body. So it's this structure which supports the lens, and it contains circular muscles. So whenever we talk about muscles, we know muscles, what do? They contract, they relax. So that's to do with movement, right? So the ciliary body contracts or relaxes, and this controls the shape of the lens. It's to do with the muscle. Obviously, there's tension that can pass, be transferred along the suspensory ligaments, but we'll look at that in a moment. Right, so that's what the lens does. Right. Okay, now let's look at the ciliary body. Oh, no, we just mentioned the ciliary body. Ciliary body, you already mentioned the suspensory ligaments. So suspensory ligaments are these very, very strong ligaments here which connect the ciliary body to the lens. And these suspensory ligaments transfer tension in the walls of the eyeball to the lens. And that's what would pull the lens to a thinner shape. So the suspensory ligaments don't have muscles, and they're not the ones that will contract or relax. That will be the ciliary muscle. What they simply do is transfer tension, which is already present in the eyeball, in the wall of the eyes, to make the lens thinner. Over here. Let's look at the vitreous humor. Now, vitreous humor is here. It's the transparent jelly-like material that fills the rear part of the eyeball. You can see that, and that purpose of that would be to just to maintain the shape of the rear part of the eyeball, and it also supports the lens here over here. Okay, now let's look at the retina. So the retina, really, so you can see the wall of the eyeball. It's like 3 layers, main layers. So the inner layer of the retina contains the light-sensitive photoreceptor cells, which are here, the rods and the cones. So these rods and the cones are the ones that initiate impulses in associated neurons when they are stimulated by light. The fovea. So the fovea is a region around here. So there's the fovea. It's a region at the back of the retina, and it's very rich in cones, about 3 million cones over there. And we know that cones, they are the photoreceptors that are involved in color vision, in high acuity color vision. So if light rays go in and they fall on here, that's when you get the best image during the day. Okay, so that was the fovea. Let's look at the choroid layer. Okay, bear with me. Choroid layer. Okay, so the choroid layer really is the region at the back of the retina. So this layer here is highly pigmented, so it'll appear dark in a photograph. It's a layer of pigmented cells. So The choroid is a layer of pigmented cells at the back of the eyeball, just behind the retina. And as you can see already, as you can see here, it contains lots of blood vessels. And what these blood vessels do is, as you know already, they supply the retina, the photoreceptor cells, provide the supply the retina with oxygen and nutrients. That's what blood vessels do, don't they? But the choroid has another function on top of supplying the retina, and that would be to prevent reflection of light within the eyeball. Because reflection of light, so if you imagine light coming in here and bouncing here and there because it's being reflected, that will cause confusion. So that's why the choroid is there. Next, let's take a look at this. This is a bundle. This is the optic neuron. It's basically a bundle of sensory nerve fibers that leave from the back of the eye. And what they do is they transmit impulses from the retina to the optic center at the back of the brain. And that region where the optic nerve leaves the eyeball, leaves the inside of the eyeball, it's that region of the retina has no light sensitive cells, so it wouldn't have the rods or the cones there. So the rods and the cones would not be present at this point where the optic neuron, the optic nerve leaves the inside of the eyeball. So if light rays were to strike this region, which is not sensitive to light, there would not be any images formed. So those were just a little summary of the structure, the main structures of the eye. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to, if you liked the session, don't forget to put a like and subscribe to my channel, and get in touch if you need any help with your biology, with your exams, practice questions. I could help you. Yeah, feel free to get in touch. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.